Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we have ourselves 7 tracks from an act named lUMP. And if we switch over to here, we've got ourselves a Spotify page. Now we're going to be listening through their singles including Terror, Bang, PLAYA ANTHEM, 6 Feet Deep, as well as Cold and Alone. 7 tracks in total because Terror, the first one we're talking about, has 3 tracks included. Apparently we are a 19-year-old producer rapper from Idaho, so I just think it's, first of all, genuinely it's fantastic to be having this kind of output at that age. We're going to listen through these tracks from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. Starting with G shit, let's go.
Yo, you know what it is. It's DJ lUMP.
Get that out up on the
studio,
screen.
Cooking, on the track, rapping. Now I know I said last year I would drop a little project during Halloween. Well, this time it's happening. No more broken promises. Y'all ready for this shit? Let's get this shit, bitches.
Great use of sub-layering there with the vocals.
It's that motherfucking G shit. I pop a fucking pill, I'm sick, fucked up in the head, body full of meds, never changing, bitch. I stay that mystic motherfucker, creeping undercover. I ain't one of your brothers, don't be acting like you know me, bitch. Got your click up in the chokehold, so cold you could call me Frozone. Bitch, I'm smoking, poking holes in the ozone, blazing up in the photo, rolling down the block in the Chevy with the windows down. You be watching how you step when you see me roll into town. Heard a fucker talking shit, make me have to pull up quick, steady knocking busters down. I add them to this waiting list. Bitch, I'm stepping on them, ho. This that player shit. I'm a big dog, mean mugging, mama ain't raised no bitch. I'm fucking built for war. I think it's funny how these pussies think they bug me. Y'all ain't on shit. Little bitch, get the fuck up off me. Raised up in the struggle, bitch. I had to live off ramen noodles. Don't even try to fuck with me. I'll show you how the G's will do.
Great, good adjustment of automation of filtering there. But there's such dynamic range to it as well, differences between the quiet and loud notes. No, genuinely, that was really good. I think we might have just...
This next one's for the motherfuckers who always be talking that shit. All that bullshit. Y'all ready? Let's fucking get it.
Oh, that's clever. See, I thought that the track had ended prematurely, but then to kind of say, hey, with the next track being fuck you. I love it. I really do enjoy this. I think this is a really cool track, like, sincerely. So I think this song, because in each of these tracks we're going to have a little mini conclusion at the end, going through like sort of vocals through production with our overall thoughts on the set list at the end. But I think that this track is about, you know, lUMP setting the precedent there, introducing themselves at the start with the start of this Terror EP, and then continuing to just lay down the law, the us versus them mentality there, talking about what they, you know, having to sort of eat ramen in order to get by there, and like letting people know absolutely that they should not be acting like they know lUMP, that he is absolutely patently where he needs to be at that point in time. He's put in the work, and that he doesn't care what you think. You know, he's built for war. He's not going to take it from anyone else. And part of what sets the precedent there and works really neatly alongside those vocals is how authoritative that 808 is. Like, I usually talk about the structure of the track, which I will in a moment, but it's just visceral. It's just so thick and it just kind of slams you and it's like, damn, okay, wow, that we mean business. And part of that is because of the fantastic amount of dynamic range that we have in this composition. We're not just having everything sort of super glued from a production perspective. You've got lUMP talking at the start, you know, DJ Slime, you know, on the track kind of introducing himself. And you got this kind of vinyl crackle on the sides there, making it seem sort of very sort of vintage and old school, like a VHS tape or something like that. And there's like little kind of like percussive hits there that add this sort of like low-key kind of jazzy atmosphere to it, that lo-fi aesthetic there. But then we have the drum kit come in and it just kicks the crap out of you, dude. It's just got a phenomenal force behind it. I think it's the combination of the kick and the 808s that have like, they just have a great presence. And you've got the little kind of clack clack kind of snare clappy kind of feel going into it with the cicada hi-hats and stuff. And it works neatly for the style there. Those parts are quite cohesive and they're niched well. And I am glad that he dropped this project because it sounds dope. I mean, just the little flurries on the right hand with the piano samples or the notes in the background, that sort of sub-layerish kind of vocal line that you can't hear too clearly because it's very quiet in the mix again with that dynamic range. But because you're focusing in on that little sound there, you then get bombarded when things build up there and you just get the kind of chord note accent boom, or the eighth note boom, boom, 2 and 3. Yeah, it's an eighth note groove, isn't it? With mixtures of sixteenths on the kicks there, syncopated elements there, freshening things up and keeping things grooving along. A mixture of triplets and some of those hi-hat parts. And what I think was really effective about the vocal performance, because I need to discuss that, was we were just very sort of like clear with our flow there. When we actually got into the rapped parts, I think that we were very comfortable working with the 16th note dub, then the 2E and the 3E and the pattern that was mirrored by some of those drum and sort of hi-hat and kick parts there, because we weren't trying to put too much stuff in between the hits. It had more kind of impact. We had some triplet sort of vocal parts and phrases rhythmically in a similar way to some of the hi-hat parts to sort of switch up the flow, and we had pauses there and, you know, to sort of split between the lines, and that was cool because it wasn't predictable. I think we also double tracked the vocals, which just gave them more presence within the mix, which was good. And actually, when I think about it, the keys, the way that they were processed in the background, it was just a 2-chord progression, but it was like they were filtered and made sort of like reverb tail a little bit at the end there, and they kind of bum, bum, da da dum dum, and we kind of resolved back to the minor, I suppose it is, because it was a minor key signature. I don't think you could have gotten away with subject matter like this in the major unless it was a celebration of the brute force with some occasional kind of mandolin plucks or something like that, just as bits of ear candy sort of fill in the gaps there between the different vocal parts. I just don't really feel we needed that many more so alternate leads to keep it, sort of pluck it up, and to have that kind of part at the end where we kind of talk about what's happening next at that with the last 15 seconds, especially if you're not reviewing it like I am, if you're listening through it from start till finish. It's like the anticipation, like, oh crap, it's not just that we have individual tracks, it feels like it's in chronological order, like there's a collective purpose to this, that we've actually put some thought into that. And to be fair, when he talks about putting it out on Halloween, you know, the EP name Terror makes total sense. And so I suppose we go to the studio production where the vocals were done in 2 different ways. They're a bit cleaner in their sort of like main verse parts there, which I think was sensible. You know, in a track where it was 3 minutes, but it was by no means your typical kind of verse chorus structure. You had the spoken kind of intro there with DJ Slump on the mic, and then you had the quieter little vocal bits, and then you had Slump sort of more sort of like divulging, to then have like that kind of bell curve go back down, and then have him speaking in that kind of lo-fi-ish kind of way there with a bit of kind of noise there and a bit of kind of sizzle to the tone, made it seem very intimate. There was a bit of tension there because of how that sounded there, and it was a deliberate production decision there. But I like the depth to the differences between the loudnesses, the changes between the quiet and loud notes. I liked how the side chaining of the kicks and how the 808s coalesced with those. I thought the keys were nicely filtered, and a little kind of mandolin plucks as well, like kind of string parts there were great. And we just, I think that it was nice and loud without pumping. Bus compression limited, well, to be fair, it did pump, but the bus compression limiting was handled. And the vocals sounded nice and present, regardless of what we were doing, unless we were trying to suck the listener in. So it's just, it's great sound design. We got Fuck You, track number 2. Let's do it. kind of funkish in it. I like how long we wait before context.
It's that suicidal killer, psychopathic Jack the Ripper. I'm straight coolin' with my shooters. I got homies that'll do ya. Bitch, I'm smoking on some nicotine. Mug me, roll the scene. Shooting busters down while I'm packing up that green. Hey, yeah, fuck you and yo whole friends too. Bitch, you think I give a fuck? Couldn't be farther from the truth. I'm just cooking in the booth. I'm just smoking on that booth. I'm just rolling with my homies in the busted ass coupe. Bitch, I'm speeding down the highway going 90 in a 70. You saying you got killers, bitch, and why am I still standing? Y'all ain't on shit, suck my dick, lil prick. Give a fuck about your threats, I fuck your shit up, then I did. Y'all solving on my night with my name all up in your mouth. You keep talking all your shit, I might just run up in your house. Sneaking quiet as a mouse, bitch, my AK got them rounds. You wanna fuck with me, I'ma shoot you fuckers down.
Oh, what? It just escalated, didn't it? Nice. Okay, so we've just gone up another level with Fuck You. Track number 2 for today off of the Terror EP. What do we think this track is about? I think that the ballsy move to not have any further context to the piece until we get to what is it, like 45 seconds? Yeah, 40, 49, like 50 seconds. Like there's just so much time to allow that kind of fonkish, kind of distorted, kind of boxy kind of synth tone loop to oscillate with a 3-1 pattern there, with the tail kind of either modulating or going kind of like further upwards there. It's got a sense of menace to it, and it's almost like after the introduction we had at the end of G Shit with Fuck You, we are kind of letting the person wait to be told that, if that makes sense. And so it kind of sounds like we're having a conversation between two different people with the upper range and the lower range. And I could be mistaking that. It could simply be a different way of communicating to try and keep interest for the listener. But I do think it's a conversation between two other people talking about AK-47s, talking about visiting their houses, talking about just not having any time for each other. You know, going 90 and a 70, we're rebels, we're doing a whole bunch of like kind of wild stuff there. We are not mucking around. And basically we're not taking it from each other. And I think that that's kind of a fun conversation to have in a piece. Oftentimes songs are opportunities for a monologue, and that can have diminishing returns depending on how much you care about the person that you're listening to. So when they're kind of personifying different elements of their own sort of reality, and kind of having that sort of like conversation, it can just be a nice alternative. And there's this like attitude there, this expression of contempt there throughout, and a similar way to G Shit there, where we're really selling the animosity. You know, we make it convincing. It's very effective there. It's a bit scary, you know, it's a bit kind of intense. But the craziest thing to me is that this track at 2 minutes is just so short, and it flies by, and we don't even have that much narrative within the piece. We have, again, those main sort of synth lines that rise over time, like from nothing. The automation, the volume just goes up and up and up and up and up from the ether until it's stuck in your face, and then you get the drums come in with those main sort of kick, sort of snare and cymbal patterns, with the occasional little ding kind of bell there for a bit of variety with the upper register there, and the bass filthy and completely kind of like cutting at you. It rolls in a way that harnesses the root note of that main sort of synth pattern or kind of melodic motif that it does throughout the majority of the track. And the kick is, I think, deliberately distorted in a way where it sounds abrasive. We're not trying to make it nice and rounded, we're trying to infer that we're gonna war. And to the fact that we kind of have that pause after the conversation that they have structurally to then go back to that main motif before we come out just shows the kind of comfort that we have with the idea that we're putting forward there. We're not overcomplicating the composition to sort of to kind of dazzle the listener. We're more creating an idea that is implemented effectively and sits with you. And with Pseudopsychosis next, you know, I genuinely don't know what we're going to have next, but at the same time I kind of do, because I'm sensing some sort of like welcome patterns here. Like, again, the control of our rhythms and sort of main points of flow within this piece are fantastic. I like the way we kind of slide between sections and the way that it's just this kind of natural sort of bell curve with a couple of these tracks. I like that the track isn't loud the entire time. It's not overwhelming or too kind of like intense. Like, don't get me wrong, I like my heavy stuff. I like my grindcore, but it's just nice to have like life to it, to wonder what's going on. And that fade out at the end is just classy, you know, studio production perspective. Again, I like both of the different types of pitch of vocal take are present in the mix. The drums are deliberately kind of at the front there for the sense of groove and pace with it, with the drums being like the bass in particular being unapologetic alongside, sorry, the kick being unapologetic alongside the bass. I mean, I suppose both are true. And you have the pads as well. And yeah, honestly, that's all you need. Honestly, like, it surrounds the stereo field, that colors the headphones, and again, the volume control is really, really good. But yeah, with Pseudopsychosis, track number 3, with production by LPY, if I'm not mistaken. We're slightly delaying some of those to make them glitch.
Hey, shout out to the man who made this beat. Helped me speak my mind for real. Eyes bad drop. Come on. It's that motherfucking player looking through the night, got blackened eyes. I sit back and I think about my life, there ain't no help. It feels like all I ever do was run around in circles, going through hurdles. Got the gun up in my head, screaming out, asking God, man, is it worth it? Never show my struggle, dog, I gotta stay stoic. It's a war inside my head, feel like a shell-shocked soldier. Man, I keep riding these bars whenever times get really hard. Feel like my soul has gone too far, and now these things I didn't earn it. Dog, I guess it just feels like I'm always at war with myself. Never know what the fuck to feel, you know? It's like, I don't know, it's just, I mean, I just got out of the mental hospital, you know? It's been a struggle, right? But hey, fuck it. We keep on rolling, motherfuckers. Feels like I'm going insane, man, these thoughts prey on my brain. Is my life really worth living when every action I take is in vain? I'm only 19, but I feel like I'll be creeping up on 45. Visions all up in my head of how I'd like to fucking die. This my message to everyone who be listening. Keep your head up even when you feel like dying. This for lane, I get it, life is hard. Keep on reaching for the stars, then one day you will look back and realize that you've come so far.
Man, that's... That's genuinely clever. That's genuinely clever with the fuck you part. That going into this. I see you, Slump. I see you, that's very clever. I think this track is effectively saying the different conversations that we had in Fuck You were the way maybe that Slump spoke to themselves, or at least the pressures they put on themselves. Like, this track is discussing the difficulties that they've had within their life, trying to sort of keep their head above water, coping with the difficulties, psychologically, the internal battles we have. I feel like this, you kind of need to listen to this EP in a sitting. It's only like 7 minutes 32. Like, it's well worth your time. I think if you understand that the end is worth it. This can be the difficulty with albums, is that if you have this kind of thing after like 12 tracks, people can need to go get a, you know, they can get distracted after like 4 or 5 songs if you're lucky. But having an EP like this with like 3 songs and they're relatively short minimizes the chance or the risk that there are going to be any issues like that. I hope that Slump is able to find you know, peace. Sincerely, I mean that from just a human perspective. It's brutal. You know, as someone who's gone through stuff too, man, it's just, this stuff speaks to me. And I'm sorry that you've had to go through this at your age. I hope that you can find support and healing so that you can have the rest of your life with a way forward, and so that you don't have to think about that stuff anymore, you know? But the vocal performance was compelling. I like how we spoke at that midway section, and it was very sort of honest and authentic. I've been sent through a lot of AI music recently, and I just struggle with that because a lot of the time they will try and do this thing where they will be like, hey, I make music, because I think about it like as a problem solving thing, because they might not be musical people. So they're like, I want to make money from AI music, so I'm going to say music that has a meaning to it, or like that helps people. But I just don't feel that AI music can help people with this stuff, or at least I don't think people relate the same way as someone literally talking about their lived experience as a fellow human being. It's like a sacred thing to talk about. And I am so proud of Slump for being able to discuss this honestly within a record, because it's very difficult to do so, to show vulnerability, especially in a day and age where a lot of the time we're encouraged to shut the fuck up, you know? I won't go on about it, but I just think the rapping was well sort of voiced, and I appreciated the flow there and the cadence of words there. And we had a similar delivery to a lot of other parts in this EP, so it sounded consistent. I'm not sure what kind of microphone we're using at the moment, and I say this as someone who has not fully utilized my microphone yet, and I'm also not saying that it's a bad microphone tone. I just wonder if eventually there is another microphone we could try, because it kind of sounds like we could have, I don't know how to describe this, it sounds like there's like a little bit of, there's like an unkind sort of frequency band there that just kind of makes it sound like the mic tone is a bit boxy, but it could also be a stylistic decision there. And if so, that's totally fine. But aside from that, I just feel like it was incredibly effective as a piece. And the production from LPY is great. We have a different sound to this. You have these kind of keys or guitar warbles and amongst pads that oscillate in and out. There's some parts where the sub range is more sort of cinematic or theatrical than anything else. You feel it as opposed to it being a sort of a stable sound. Just heavy vibrato or sort of like modulating on those guitar parts, and they kind of flutter in a very sort of accurate lo-fi hip hop sort of way. And I appreciate the styling of that. It kind of makes it seem like things are distorting or trembling a little bit, like there's like a delay to certain parts of the kit there where it kind of buzzes a little bit there and makes it seem a bit sort of disconcerted. And I think considering the subject matter that we're discussing, that makes complete sense. Yeah, I think that's it as well. I just think I can occasionally hear a little bit of sort of distortion on the mic channel there. So even if it's just finding a microphone with a little bit more sort of like headroom, I think that'd be really good. And again, I'm not, you know, it's still, I can still make out everything that's going on. I do think some of the kind of sizzle that I'm hearing is potentially those kind of hi-hats, though. They do have a kind of spice to them, a lot of fire there, so it could be that. And I think the kind of the vinyl warping that we have on certain parts of those guitar tones there makes it seem like a very sort of old school vintage kind of feel to it. Kind of gives it a horror movie music vibe where a lot of that stuff sounds kind of a bit sort of mutated. But it's not done in a way that's aggressive. It's very sort of gentle with itself at the same time. The use of extended chords within the harmony in general give it a complicated emotive feel that I think presumes a lot correctly about the state of Slump and where they're at. And there is an inherent connection there between those elements because of that. I think we have, again, those main sort of drum and bass elements there that are consistent across these other two pieces. They sort of link them together, but we're also trying to add a different kind of less sort of like antagonistic kind of like inference to this. Even when we have the kind of very kind of intense like clicks and sort of like bass kind of like thumping away at you a little bit like near the end around the 2:05 mark, there's some moments of softness here that are wonderful. So ultimately I just feel like we balance the needs of our duties with the fundamental sort of like instruments sort of relevant for the genre, whilst also trying to sort of like de-escalate a little bit from fuck you and G shit. I appreciate the range there. If the aim of this was to get a producer who does another style of music that's kind of contrasting a bit to what we were producing initially, I mean, that was a decision. I think it's a sensible decision. Though Slump also shows a lot of promise, and we're interesting to hear what they do in future as well. But yeah, no, a fantastic start to the EP. Studio production. I mean, I know I mentioned the mic tone as well. There's just like a bit of like a resonant frequency somewhere that's making it sound a bit boxy, but like it's not a bad thing. It's just me being transparent and nitpicking. I'm very, very happy in general with the way that this was produced in Britain. The concept makes sense. Let us continue. We have Player Anthem. Let's go. Let's do it.
Favorite scary movie?
Yeah, this is more recent. We got sad brass with funk with hip hop.
Bitches a young white kid, steady packing with the stick, steady fucking up my lungs. Man, I'm talking about that nick, I can't quit. I'm addicted to this music shit, it's do or die. Pussy fuck a record label, I can't be signed, homie. Bitch, I'm rolling with the crew in the shitty ass coupe. Man, it really ain't nothing new. Looking for something to do, speeding down the road, stuck a cop. Middle finger to the law. I said fucking on my life, homie, fucking 9 to 5. Man, they hate cause I be out here doing shit, they don't really be out here doing the hardest work that I be putting in bars. I stay up late, brain spraying, fucked from the drugs, steady pumping through my veins, mentally deranged, pissing on names. I stay fucking up the game.
Dude, I feel spoiled, man. There's just so much to appreciate. Sab.
It's that motherfucking player anthem, breaking hoes, I do my dance. What you know about living life up in the trend? I came for the killer, snorting Percocet straight up they fucking nose. Mask off when I slide, bitch, you know that's how it goes. I'ma do them bitches dirty, I'ma leave his ass hard and trauma stacking up like Benji's. I'ma hit you with that 30, bitch, I mean, fuck your team and whatever the fuck you stand for. Pussy talking shit, I'ma leave his ass up on the asphalt. I don't give no fucks, really to me this ain't no luck. All you pussies fucking suck. Young fuck that's coming up, you do not know shit. Just a little bitch going nowhere. I be that frozen motherfucker riding through blocking a two-door ho.
Back to that vocal sample. Really kind of fascinating hi-hat pattern on the right side. Final crackle on the left. And we have the laugh of the woman at the end. You just never know what you're gonna get next. It's just the lyrics are kind of over the top, but I kind of adore them. I feel like you've got to go hard or go home, right? Player Anthem. It's kind of playing, quote unquote, on the idea of how hard Slump is, how much they don't need to be signed, how much they're gonna leave everyone else on the asphalt. Just how they're not going to take shit from anyone. We also talk about Percocets and stuff like that, and I'm not sure if he's talking about himself taking the Percocets or other people taking the Percocets. I don't know enough about Percocets to really sort of know whether it's a good or a bad thing, but either way, I think effectively comes down to the sort of more traditional us versus them mentality and kind of celebrating our ability and capacity to be able to do that. I feel like this is a really sort of solid follow-on from the Terror EP. There's a bit more polish to some of the, like the vocal mic thing I mentioned isn't an issue anymore. Not that it really was, but like it's just fantastic now. You can hear everything nice and clearly. There's a lot to talk about this one. I'll try not to overdo it, but you know. We've again got that kind of lower kind of volume, kind of, again, I say funk, just like the vocal sample, like more of a rhythmic device than anything like that. We've got it with the sad trumpet. And it's very kind of bittersweet or melancholic. I can't really decide which one it is there, but it's like, hey, you know what I want to do right now is I just want to have these thudding 808s and basses and these kind of clicky components there, and I want to have the top kind of funkish kind of stabs that you have on the other side with the vinyl crackle, and all of these ingredients that might not necessarily go together that often, but I like that it's a little bit different to what I've heard, and maybe I am completely just ignorant of a lot of sort of like modern rap and hip hop and stuff like that, but I like this combination. I think it's quite fresh. It's almost like we're focusing more on creating things that sound good rather than just going with what we think will work. But there's like always kind of clicky like 16th and 32nd triplets and stuff like that in the center of the stereo field, but then you also have a separate hi-hat that's going with like the closed and the opens, and it's not just 1, 2, 3 or 1 and 2. It's got different accents because of how those open and closes work, and it's unpredictable, and there's variation to that, and it's not in the center, so it's asymmetrical in the stereo field, so therefore it is more interesting. And you have the kick and the snare and the bass being as bombastic as in the first few tracks, which is good. And the snares actually sound so caustic, like they're so smashed there, they're like a gun going off. And we do have that gradual build as well there. It's another song where we really do not feel the need to rush to the point of giving the listener that easy kind of payday. We make them work to hear the context, and by waiting for a voice that they assume they're going to hear, they end up appreciating a lot of the other things that were being put forward as well. And you do have different chapters structurally there. Things adjust compositionally through the piece. And honestly, like, I don't really need to listen to Slump to enjoy my time vibing along to the tune, because it's just kind of fun. It's just a satisfying sort of like feedback loop, a motif that works well with the root notes and has a kind of questioning trumpet solo. Just texture is important. I think we're also adjusting the double tracking of our vocals as we go through the piece here. Sometimes we're a bit wider in the stereo field earlier on, and then a bit later on we're in the center, and I do wonder if that's like a way of varying between the main verses and choruses. I think we have bossa nova drums at some parts. Or something like that, kind of like a subtle kind of acoustic drum groove at certain points, or you know, then we have the keys as well that are a subtle sub layer, and there's more of that dynamic range that I appreciate when we're not having everything the same loudness, and it kind of sucks you into it a little bit even as it rises with automation of the volume. Yeah, I think overall thematically it's more a piece that it kind of plays that brass anthem over, like it's respectfully covering Slump as they spit their truth on the mic about it, and just its raw, authentic glory. It's not trying to be superfluous or kind of glaze or anything like that. It's just a day in the life for this dude. Generally, and I think that, again, the use of the boom, 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 we have a chromatic shift, I think, back into the main sort of major chord, so it's actually in a major key as well, which is really fun. So it's major key with 808s. Nice. But yeah, the studio production is splendid. I like that I can hear all the individual key, bass, drum, vocal, sub-vocal, leads, keys, acoustic drum parts there, the different hi-hat clicky ones and acoustics. It's just nice to be able to hear all those individual components within the mix and within the stereo field, so it's the headphones with no weird resonant frequencies within the frequency spectrum. And it's nice and loud, and it pumps, and it's great. Good stuff. And then we've got Bang, track number 5. Out up on the screen.
Never fuck with those, never gave a shit. Don't need no pussy, just need to spit it. busting up on my hits. That white boy steady prowling. I get these bitches wildin'. Every time I'm up on the mic, I make it hit like my name is Mike Tyson. You know Slump ain't never miss. I'm coming straight about the sticks. That ain't no rap shit. That's that life shit. Music for life, bitch. Stepping all up on the pussy boy. If he wanna throw shade, I take the AK, aim it at your face and let it bang. I got your bitch up on my dick and now I feel incredible. She laughing at the text you said while she sucking up on my pole. This shit is do or die. They for a sucker or a buster, busting out some chemicals. What you know, let the beat go.
And we're done. So that bass was hella intense. It just allowed the kick to go through occasionally. Solid side chaining. Bang, I think it's more deliberate and direct about the duality of not needing bitches because we need to kind of move forward. You know, we talk about, I think, popping pills and sort of like doing like lines and stuff like that and trying to sort of like use all of this kind of our resources to be able to make our music, but then we talk about getting with someone's woman and then like them laughing at the text and stuff like that. So I think it's more whatever happened, you know, before they decide to go bang and put some metal in someone, they decided to do something a little bit more sadistic instead, and I kind of dig that. I think it's a fun thing to sort of write a track about. It's clearly not happy Georgia children's music, but music doesn't need to be like that. Sometimes it can be kind of ferocious, and I think that we've had that so far with Slump's music, and I think that's totally fine. Bang as a concept is unapologetic and cutthroat, and I think that the bass that you have throughout the majority of the track insinuates that directly. You have these da 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 da, these kind of little kind of cutesy chants at the start there with little twinkles of the sky or like other instruments there, and it sounds like it's very kind of innocent, and you look at the art of it and you kind of see that kind of aesthetic to it there, but then kind of goes into again these kind of sidechain kicks and sort of drum elements with that bass, which is just unforgiving. It's just ruthless. It just cuts the whole way through with the hi-hats on the sides there, again kind of articulating a kind of groove to it with like sub-16ths and a main chord note accent. And we have more of the similar kind of like vocal phrasing to this from Slump there, the kind of da ba da da da, and we work it with the hi-hats to make it sound kind of authoritative, and it works in that instance, but it kind of softens it a little bit because of the twinkles of some of those piano parts on the right hand there, the kind of beauty of them on the upper register. When the bass rises up an octave, when it goes up that octave there, they've compressed it so well that it kind of stays a similar loudness, and that is actually a difficult thing to do, so I'll give kudos to Slump on that to be able to make that as smooth as it is. I think there's also a bit of deliberate vocal distortion on the vocal tracks there, but in a way where I think it's more sort of stylistic this time, and it kind of adds a bit of kind of lo-fi. It helps to synthesize it, make it almost seem like it's like an age-old diss track, a tale as old as time, but it just makes it sound different. And what I mean by that is, in this day and age where it can be it's not as difficult as you think to make something that sounds good, but you kind of need to do stuff to the expected textures and timbres in order to make it stand out in certain times. Use different instruments that might be a bit sort of unexpected to kind of pique attention or curiosity or interest there. And you got to kind of do it without the permission of the listener a lot of the time. I think it was a sensible decision to not have the drums at the end though, just allow the kind of bass to patio us out with the vocals and then like other sort of instruments in the background, like the original sample. I think it's like a major 7 or like a major key orient, which makes it sound a lot more sort of gentle than it actually is outside of that. And it's an interesting sort of juxtaposition they've got there between the story and the actual backing itself, but I think the drums and bass kind of help to reinforce that. And generally the production was solid, you know, nice and smooth across the board, no complaints from me. You know, honestly, it's another really good effort. 5 for 5 as far as I'm concerned. We got 6 Feet Deep here, track number 6. What have we got? Get that art up on the screen there. Oh, we have the clicky hi-hats, nice.
It's Slump on the track, motherfucker.
That was so unsettling.
Strapped to my back, got a backpack full of max coming through your window. I'm about to make a stain on the pussy boy. Told the bitch, get the fuck up off my dick. Ain't talking about no whore, just talking about the pussies who wanna talk shit. You gon' get you wig, white split in your life with a slice hole. You already know I ain't fucking around when it comes to the rap shit, bitch. I'm a savage, yeah, I gotta have it. Spitting venom up on the mic, bitch, you know that I'm a bad kid. Knocking pussies down, got your bitches on my dick. House sucking up my nut. Your girlfriend, she a freak show. Something got no limit, I'ma keep going till I'm in the coffin. Spitting bars up on the mic, got the bitches smiling, crowds are wild. In the end, I'm doing this for my family, trying to paint a better way for my bloodline, so I won't stop. Gotta make sure my people eat, I'ma hit the grindstone till I'm 6 feet deep, bitch.
The harp theme, or that's a piano, isn't it, with some like phasing or flanging in it. Well played. Is this deliberate or not? Is this was it meant to be that length? I don't think it was. No, I don't think it was meant to be 241. I think they had that kind of lady sample at the end there just to kind of fade it out. Oh, that's a shame. I thought there was going to be like bonus points or something like that, or like a little Easter egg or something like that. That's okay. 6 feet deep is... Initially I was like, oh, they're going to put this person 6 feet under, but I more so think that it's about the dedication that Slump has, to the extent that they're going to keep doing this until they're in the dirt. They are just dedicated to the grind, to the journey that they have ahead with their music, trying to sort of help set their family up, sort of like getting with the people that they want to, doing whatever they have to as an adult to find success there, and not allowing anyone to take them for granted or to take the piss. And I think that like 6 tracks deep into this set list, I kind of am used to and comfortable with the flow of this. I wonder what else we will talk about. I think with the Terror EP, and again, you can't keep doing the same kind of like loop, I understand that. It was kind of satisfying in a sad sense that we had that kind of payoff where it was more about the fight was within himself now. I just wonder what the last track, Cold and Alone, is going to be like, whether we're kind of doing the similar thing again, or whether it's like someone else being Cold Alone or something like that. Because I'm looking at this chronologically, primarily because these tracks have released chronologically. They've been in the order that they're on Spotify. But I think that the piano motif that we have in this piece is very kind of spooky sounding. It's got this kind of minor leaning and modulation there that arpeggiates, and it flanges and phases and kind of writhes, and it's very kind of spooky. I almost kind of thought that it was a harp at one point. The strings that we have in there with the minor setting, they do offer a sense of tension and fear and discomfort as well. To then have those more sort of traditional kind of hi-hat, kick and snare patterns come in there helps to sort of niche this track with a lot of the other output that we've heard from Slump stylistically. You can tell these are instruments that they like to use, a mixture of different sort of 16th and triplet patterns on the hi-hats, with the quarters, eighths, you know, snares. Well, the snares are typically no, to be fair, there's been some snare fills as well. I think, to be fair to Slump, here a lot of focus was put, I think, on adjusting the meter of some of the vocal rhythms within like the verses and stuff like that. We do speed up sometimes, and some of those words come through very clearly, and they come through and therefore effectively. When you rap more quickly, I think it's important to both have like a purpose for it, as well as to be able to sort of get the story across just as well as if you had taken your time with it, because otherwise people might miss context. So I'm glad that we were able to handle that here. And we did the different sort of vocal range thing as well here, going between high and low to contrast and conflict there. And I think that was sensible. You know, it's sensible to offer that tonal variety there, especially if we're not trying to be too sort of colorful with the melodies or our main vocal parts. And it kind of mirrors some of the ways that like the keys go up and then down. They kind of do that loop again. The vocals going up and down, showing understanding and sort of like chemistry with that. And you've got like the lady vocals on my mind talking about crime, etc. There, maybe they're discussing what they've done in order to get to their position as well. We have the lady kind of down, bump, 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 but like that kind of pattern fade us out with the automated fade out at the end. And then the track ends. I think within this piece you understand how dedicated lUMP truly is to the direction they're headed in. The minor leading across the board kind of insinuates that we really, this is the kind of darkness that we're facing toward. That there is no horror quite like crossing us in this situation. And the fact that we just allow those keys to be by themselves sometimes shows that we're kind of like comfortable enough to have said what we've said and then to not need to over articulate there. To know that if you have vocals the entire time through a track can be a little bit too much context, especially if words are repeated too often. So genuinely, I think structurally, vocally compelling. I like the different vocal layers. And studio production wise, I think we're continuing to have a great sort of sense of adding the different instruments within the frequency spectrum. Again, music surrounds you in the headphones. Again, use of filtering and flanging on the keys, just an interesting sort of effects chain on that. It kind of makes it sound a bit warped and twisted there, which makes sense. But the kind of some of the horror, especially again with the album art and everything like that, it's very kind of unsettling. Still nice and loud without pumping, you know, or with pumping, should I say. I say without pumping, but no, it does as sidechains. Ultimately very good, and I feel positive going into Cold and Alone. With Cold and Alone here, let's do it. Very pretty. I like the artwork here.
Bitch, I'm cold, frozen snow, all alone, ain't no hope. Emotions blocked, just to heal my heart from the pain. Trying to drug every contemplating suicide. Don't wanna make my mama cry. I just want the pain to end. Teardrops steady falling out my smoking on some nicotine just to feel the buzz. Shit don't work anymore. I might go and try a different drug. Nothing numb the pain, feel like I'm drowning every day. Blood red tears dripping down my fucking face. No escape from this place.
I was not expecting their vocal style. I don't know if morose is the word to use there. I'm going to confirm that afterwards.
Bitch, I'm cold, frozen snow, all alone, ain't no hope. Emotions blocked, just to heal my heart from the pain. Trying to drug every day. Contemplating suicide, don't wanna make my mama cry. I just want the pain to end. Teardrops steady falling out my eyes.
When I hear tracks like these, genuinely not trying to break the fourth wall too much, I've had young musicians that I've reviewed make music where they've openly discussed this kind of stuff and then actually pass away. So I say this very with kindness. If you are genuinely feeling like this, if you're feeling this alone, I think it's really important to communicate that, but I really hope you're able to find the help you need to get through what you're struggling with, because you don't deserve to be feeling like this. It sounds brutal. That in mind, Cold and Alone, I think, discusses how they're contemplating ending things and sort of struggling with that. And there's been so much music that I've reviewed recently where people have been discussing this, and it's brutal, dude. There are a lot of people that will relate to this, unfortunately. Emotions blocked, kind of feeling numb, cold and alone. It's terrible. And like, I get it. Like, you feel numb and you don't know what to do, and it can feel like anything is better than that. You know, like it's just unbearable. The vocal performance sells it so effectively, dude. It's just, sometimes you'll have people talk about the stuff and they'll be kind of charismatic and vibrant, and it's just kind of a bit disconcerting and almost seems a bit kind of, almost kind of weirdly snarky. But here we have someone that just sounds tired and beaten down and bruised, and it's horrible. You know, I'm sorry, it just makes me feel bad for them. That's the power of expression when you tell a story. And the track at 2 minutes does so much to kind of follow along from that, or to kind of add to that, by not necessarily even feeding into that. I mean, this song just has nothing for what feels like about 10-20 seconds. And then you have that kind of very kind of like somber guitar motif working between those sort of like, those kind of major kind of like arpeggios. There are those note choices, and there's like this kind of flutter there and this reverb tail, and it just sounds so empty, man. It just sounds so quiet and empty and fragile. And you have an 808 that's far less aggressive than previous tracks, which makes total sense. And you've got the drum kit as well, which has a similar kind of intensity to it. It's sensible how they've produced this though, because they know they couldn't have maybe gone as hard with the distorted textures of the other parts. It would have just seemed a little bit too much. We really don't have that much more than that. This genuinely just seems like we're reaching out to tell people this. We don't necessarily provide an answer at the end. And there have been other tracks throughout the setlist where we've been far more active with our composition and layers, and in this one we're far more sort of constrained. It's kind of weird sort of thematically how those kind of major leanings and the piece of the almost meditative piece of those guitar tones contrast with the darkness of what we discussed within the lyrics there. It's kind of unsettling. But the track just ends. It just goes quiet and we're just done. It's like we said what we needed to and we left. Production-wise, incredibly intimate. The phenomenal dynamic range. No intent whatsoever to try and squeeze things. We made music where I think genuinely we just wanted to make what we wanted to make using the sounds we liked, and we were just... I can't fault this one. I don't feel great after listening to it, but I can't fault it because I feel bad about it. I just feel bad. But the studio production is fantastic. The quality of the vocal recording there, the guitars, the bass drums, they all niche well, level-wise, you know, dynamically. And we're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. In fact, all the tracks, I suppose. Because welcome to the conclusion of our review of these tracks from an act named Slump, these songs, the Terror EP, as well as Bang, Playa Anthem, 6 Feet Deep, as well as Cold and Alone. In this section, I'm going to be providing an overall analysis of these tracks. I'm not going to be talking about the individual ones on a per track basis because I've already got a lot of mini conclusions for each, as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. But first of all, what do we think these tracks are about? In the least patronizing way possible, I think this is about Slump finding identity both as a musician, as a rapper, as a pop artist, as a producer, whilst also coming to terms with their own mental health, their own sort of like self-reflection, their own sort of identity, their own sort of inner monologue and the turmoil and destruction from that, the dramas and that we have with others, you know, the pressures that we put on ourselves to try and get ourselves to a point where we can sort of support our family, everything like that, and just the general feeling of isolation that we have with like Cold and Alone, as well as suicidal ideation. And it's such heavy stuff. And I think there'll be some people who listen to this music and be genuinely affected by it. I was in a way where I feel for the guy and I don't even know him. And it's part of that is the vocal performance. Like, it's so earnest and honest and authentic. We have solid flow when we rap. We double track and we adjust our meter and pitch there. Our cadences sort of switch up. We've only got a couple of months worth of tracks on here, but like there's no filler through those. We seem very sort of clear and focused on how we want to communicate. We have a good ear for what works from a production and compositional perspective. We have a wide variety of different instrumental components, and we typically have minor leanings, although there were some major ones later on for a bit of a bittersweet and melancholic feel. And typically we're either talking or introducing ourselves or speaking to others or setting the scene or just being honest about our own sort of situation. And we don't filter. I don't think we're trying to front. I think it's honest, and I kind of love just how real it is. And this is why I love that people make music, especially in a day and age where there's just so much stuff being made. Like I just like when people are open and make music that means something, if not only to them then to others, but it's believable. I mean, these tracks are typically 2 to 3.5 minutes, or 2 to 3 minutes, should I say. That's enough. That's enough length. That's a well-rounded piece. Like, that's a good length for a song, especially when a lot of these tracks are like 40 to 50 seconds of like very little to nothing. You might have little kind of funkish vocal samples they're repeating as a melodic or rhythmic device they're working on the root notes. You might have little like sort of dum 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 kind of like synth stabbers, or you might have the sad brass trumpet, or you might have the da 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 da, the kind of bang sample there with the keys and the marimba, or you might even have the guitars and Cold Alone where they're barely there and they slowly rise, and it's just, or the open hi-hats that we had in like PLAYA Anthem, and it's just, or the kind of aggressive blast your head off 808s in a lot of these tracks. But yeah, the primary instruments throughout each of these are, again, they are the 808s and the drums, with a mixture of different snare, clap, cymbal, and kick patterns with occasional bells and little stabs there. The 808s, they range from like intense to blow your head off, kind of like, and I love how much it kind of hits at you. Like some of the stuff in Terror is feral with that, but I like, and I think as well, it was 6 Feet Deep, but one of these tracks, they had like a bass. They just, was it PLAYA Anthem? Yeah, it was bang though, but a lot of the other ones had the kind of 808s that were louder, but like the drums were clicked differently, or sort of like set differently, so they kind of behaved differently. There were sort of like modulated piano and then string sections there. There was just a lot to appreciate. Little kind of like bossa nova drum parts and certain elements there. We found samples or sounds that we liked, put them together with some sort of almost sort of like psychedelic kind of like ideas, like in Pseudopsychosis, with the heavy kind of tremolo in those guitars, making them kind of warble, with the synth pads coming in and out, with the 808 being more sort of like theatrical in the low end and kind of like having less of an attack to it than anything else. But the drums and the bass and the vocals are the constants, and those are the fundamentals that we had throughout the piece. So I'm thankful that Slump had these different verses and choruses and little spoken parts, typically just one verse. We had maybe splits halfway, or like a couple of goes through an idea, or maybe the vocal samples were the chorus or something like that. But we left ourselves in a position where it was effectively, yeah, we're going to give you as much story as I feel you need to, and then we're done, and you can just appreciate the musicality of everything left behind. And I think that's the beauty of these short form factor tracks, is that we don't overstay our welcome. We just have an idea that's put forward, implemented well, and we're done. And I mean, typically these tracks were minor oriented, although some of them were like major oriented, and it was kind of beautiful how we could just kind of twist and turn anything we needed to suit the mood in a way that wasn't necessarily even initially justifiable. There were menace in some parts vocally where the backing was so gorgeous, but because the drums and bass came in, it kind of fleshed it out. It's more like the bit of kind of prettiness that you need to sort of find equilibrium against everything else that's far more sort of like visceral. We had extensions at certain points, lots of interesting textural timbral choices there, and it's also the use of production value, like the actual filtering of certain elements, the way they're kind of presented within the mix, and the tension from the dynamic range in both a composition and a production perspective there, the way things were raised slowly there, but also we took things away to allow space within the mix. There was just a lot to appreciate. And so finally, the studio recording, mixing and mastering, was great. I wasn't initially convinced with the mic tone, but again, I think for an initial EP, it was still good. Don't get me wrong. It's just like I just there were some tracks where there's like a little bit of sort of like distortion or like resonance in a certain band, and I just wondered what kind of mic we were using. But as we get, I think I just got used to the sound of the microphone as we went through, and I kind of adore the way it sounds now. Like it depended, I think, on the surrounding elements, and I think as Slump continued to develop as a musician over those few months, which is crazy progress, they just found their tone and their happy place. And I think now with these most recent tracks, even with the kind of like turn I had with you know, Cold and Alone kind of catching me by surprise a little bit, as well as a few of the others, I just hope they, you know, I made me care about them and their music, and I think that's really important. But it helps that it was nice and low without pumping, that again we had the automation of volume there to kind of make it more sort of interesting without lack of predictability of certain elements of how they're going to be presented. Music surrounded you in the stereo field, you know, no weird resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum there. If there was a kind of a dustness or grayness to stuff, you could tell it was stylistically kind of like deliberate. There was like vinyl crackle and warping and fading at some points there. They'd been trying to make it sort of sound a bit more sort of like over old school, and it's nice and loud with pumping. Commercial grade in that respect, I think, for the most part. No real applicable constructive critique here. From a general listener's perspective, I just think I hope that they are in a good place now and they've got the support networks they need. That's all I'm going to say on that, because I feel like I'm not going to be an armchair therapist or anything like that. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to review music. But I just, whenever I hear, again, because I've lost people I've worked with, let alone know, to mental health stuff. And I just hope that they're able to sort of find the help they need. Because it sounds like they're going through some really dark shit. And if there's anywhere where people are honest, it's their music. And when someone is telling you something, you gotta hear it and you gotta go roll with it, you know. There's no reason for them to lie about that kind of stuff. So yeah, ultimately still, I was affected by it, therefore the music was successful, therefore it is art. Thank you for watching my review of these tracks from an ex named Slump. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go check them out via the various social medias and our Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need to help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.